Okay, so let's create a blog post. So we've talked through pages, now let's talk through posts. So just like with pages, you can list all posts, and I don't believe there's any yet. No, there's not any. And all this functionality is the same. You can apply bulk actions, you can move to trash, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff in trash when I was just messing around with this site. Actually, I'm going to recover that. That'd be quite useful to talk through. So select it all, restore. Okay. There we go. So yeah, so again, same functionality as pages, quick edit, well, edit, quick edit, view, see the author here. What's different is categories. I'm going to talk through categories in more detail in a moment. I've touched upon them previously, but categories are ways you choose to categorize posts. Tags, it's a further way to categorize posts. You would say that tags are generally more granular than categories. Categories are broader. Tags are a lot more specific. And comments. So yeah, so let's just double check, see what the differences are. No differences there. You can just see certain posts by date. I've just put in a load of dummy content, so it's dated 2008. You can just see, you can just filter posts from certain categories, and if you end up with hundreds or thousands of posts, filtering may be useful. You can search posts, screen options rather. I would say you want as much displaying as possible, and I often end up changing this to 200 or something if I have a lot of posts, because I don't want to click through page after page after page. It's nice to have a lot of information on one screen. Okay, so and we can also view in this format or this format if you prefer to view your content in this way. But I would say the default is this this display. Okay, and yeah, as mentioned, you can see the author, the categories, the tags, comments, date it was published or last updated. Okay. Actually, before we create a new post, let's just edit an existing one and let's take a quick look. Okay, so again, there's a title, there's a permalink. And I would say this permalink is too long. I prefer, this slug, I prefer to keep them shorter. Because I don't like it when addresses on my blog, on my site, get too long. So instead of having all these words, we could just have blog / I don't know, even just call it everything. Or everything and the kitchen sink, for example. But I'm just going to rename it to everything. Okay. And again, it's much the same. You can add media, there's bold, italic, strike through, bullets, numbered list, block quotes, etc., etc. This is exactly the same. And you can also flick between viewing the actual code of the page if you want to look at that. But generally you'll be dealing in Visual Editor. Okay, and as mentioned previously, one big difference, what you generally don't use on a page, but you often use in posts is insert read more tag. So we've got it here. So I talked through how this looks in a previous video on an existing site. Let's take a look. So let's go to the blog. So / blog. So there's our blog. Okay, so this is the front page of our blog where our blog posts are listed with the newest at the top and moving to the oldest. And you can see, the entire blog post is not listed on the blog page. Some blogs do choose to have the entire blog post displaying on the blog page. So then if the blog page is displaying 10 posts, it can be tens of thousands of words on a single page. So often you just show a paragraph or two, and then you have to click through, continue reading, to actually go to the actual blog post and see all the content. So deciding, if you go back to the blog page, decide where the cutoff is this. The read more link or insert read more tag. So currently it's the post is breaking just after, okay, I'm assuming this is Latin, so consequat. Let's make it a bit more obvious. So I'm just going to put 3 hashes in there. Update. So back to the blog post. Refresh. So there we go. So now we can move this link. So let's go back to the blog post, select it, and delete. And I'm going to move it to below heading 2. So put enter there and add this here. So you of course only want one of these per post. So let's update. Back to the blog, refresh, and you'll see how this has moved. So now our 3 hashes are there, but we've got all this extra text, got a couple of headings, and then we've got the continue reading link. So it's a choice how much content you want available on the blog post, all of it or just some of it. And then at which point does the reader have to click through to read the rest of the post. You generally want to include enough information to entice them to read. But at the same point, you don't want to unless you choose to do that, unless you specifically choose to have all the posts appearing on the homepage, on the blog page, you'd probably want a cutoff that is nearer the start than nearer the end, unless it's a very short blog post. If it's a 300-word blog post, you may just include the whole thing on the blog page. Whereas if it's 5,000 words, you probably don't want all that appearing, so you might have the read more link after 100 words, 200 words, even 500 words, depending how you choose to structure your blog. And for ideas on this, it's worth looking at other high traffic blogs, popular blogs, see what they're doing. Okay, so those are all those options now. Let's take a look at some further options that are unique to posts. I'll come back to format in a moment. I just wanted to talk through categories. So a blog post has to be assigned to a category, even if the category is called uncategorized. So yeah, blog posts are organized as categories. And you can have a blog post, you can apply a blog post to multiple categories if that makes sense. You probably don't want to apply to too many categories, because then it may mean that your categories have a lot of overlap, and generally each category should be fairly self-contained. Like in the previous video, I gave the example of, let's say you run a technology blog and you have some blog posts talking about Apple, you have some blog posts talking about Microsoft. You would probably have a Microsoft category and an Apple category, but there would rarely be a blog post that is in both of those categories. There may be occasionally, but generally it would be one or the other. So categories are pretty wide in that respect. Okay, so yeah, here you can choose which categories this blog post belongs to. And the benefit of that is it helps you structure your content, and it helps readers find more related content, so they can click through to a category and see all the blog posts about Apple, for example, or all the blog posts about Microsoft. Okay, tags. Tags are more, I would say, yeah, more granular than categories. Categories are quite broad. Tags aren't always used, or if they are, they may be, for example, okay, let's say, okay, the example of Microsoft. You have a Microsoft category, and this is a parent category, so it doesn't belong to any other category. Excuse me, I added a Microsoft category previously, so there it is. So I'm going to ignore that. So let's get rid of all this and make this specific blog post part of Microsoft. Part of the Microsoft category. But then if we want to be more specific, we can start adding tags. So we could choose from the most used tags here. We can add tags. So let's say Windows 10. That's a tag. That probably wouldn't justify its own category, but it could be a tag. So even though this isn't actually correct, maybe one way to think about it is, yeah, categories are broad and tags are niche below categories, even though that's not how they're structured in WordPress, but that may be a way to think about them. So let's say Windows 10, Windows 8, Surface 4, and just trying to think of one more Microsoft thing, Xbox, let's say. So we can apply, yeah, so these tags, let's get rid of tag 2, we don't want tag 5, we don't want tag 6. Let's just leave those Microsoft specific tags for this blog post. So again, it's another way to help your readers and also the search engines, but that's but mainly it's for your readers to help them find other related content. It's another way to help them navigate your site, because if you have thousands, tens of thousands of blog posts, then they can click on categories or they can click on tags and they can quickly find other relevant content. Okay, so right, what's next? I'm going to talk through post formats in the next video because I feel it justifies its own video. But just as we wrap this up, I've touched upon featured image before, but yeah, it's less used on pages but often used on posts. So we can set a featured image. I keep using the bullseye, but let's use the bullseye again. I'm going to leave title caption. Title caption blank, all text, that's fine. Description blank, set featured image. Okay, this does depend again on your theme, but a featured image is tied to a blog post and can get used in a lot of places where that blog post is referenced. So for example, if there's a page that lists lots of blog posts, it's nice to have that list with images next to it, which would be the featured image rather than just text. So yeah, featured images generally used for posts, less so for pages. So update, and let's see how we're doing after all that. So go to the blog, refresh. Okay, yeah, there's our featured image. A little bit jarring. Yeah, I could probably tweak the theme and make it maybe not so prominent, but anyway. So let's click through. So yeah, there's a category. And again, everything changes with a theme. The category here is listed at the top above the title. Other themes would probably have it somewhere else. There's our featured image. Okay, I haven't talked about users yet. I'm going to talk about users in a later video, but obviously I don't want that, my login ID, as the author name, because that's not particularly, that doesn't really make sense. I'd want my name. Okay. There are the tags. So again, if you consider categories broad descriptions of broad containers for your posts, for relevant posts, tags are a lot more granular, a lot more specific. You could say they're below categories, even though again that's not how WordPress structures them. WordPress considers categories and tags entirely separate. So they're the tags. We can click through to previous post, next post, and there's a couple of dummy comments. Okay, so I think that wraps it up. Yeah, in the next video, as mentioned, I'm going to talk through different post formats WordPress offers.